free college football picks, Week 12, Part 2. I'm Tony here with our college football pick show here for Tuesdays. We've got, 11 games. We have 2 for the games on Tuesday, and the remainder 9 will be for Saturday. We're going to get all 63 games in this week. We'll do it in 6 parts, and this one we got 11 here in Part 2 of our Week 12 college football show. Before we get underway, just a couple of things. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Free college football picks are updated all season long. Free picks every day from all the major sports. We also have NFL. We have college basketball. We also have NBA, NHL, and more. It is a good time to subscribe. And also, if you would support our channel, give it a thumbs up. We greatly appreciate it. Then visit TonyPicks.com. We're a multi-capper site showcasing top cappers in our industry. Click the links to the hot cappers. Get signed up to some of our long-term passes. You can see Ramon has been on fire right now. We also have Morning Steam with a monster day yesterday. We got Nick Collins has been hot. Nick as well. So click the links and get signed up to our long-term passes. You can also find our latest premium picks here on the center of the page, as well as our best bets, our $15 premium pick, and 3-packs, which are very popular on our site. So check those out if you would. Our pick ticker, you can purchase premium picks as well, individually picks here a la carte on the pick ticker. Our promo code is TonyT. You can save 20% off all premium pick packages when you use the promo code TonyT at checkout. You can access our page by clicking the link in the description. Click the All Cappers tab and get signed up. Also love to hear from you guys, so post your picks in the comments below. We are looking for cappers, so you can apply over at Tony's Picks in our footer section. And of course, you get every pick in podcast form. Tony's Picks podcast on all available major platforms. Just search Tony's Picks in your favorite platform. All right, let's go ahead. Let's get this one started. Ohio versus Ball State College Football Pick Tuesday. Highland improves to 7-3 with their 37-21 road win at Miami, Ohio. Bobcats gained 556 yards in the game with 194 rushing on 43 carries. Defensively, they limited Miami, Ohio to just over 3 yards per carry with 244 passing yards on 26 attempts. Curtis Work completed 71% of his passes, 10.3 yards per attempt. He threw for 362 yards with 3 touchdowns. This season, Work career high is 69% completion rate, 9.2 yards per attempt. He's thrown for 24 touchdowns and 4 picks. Ball State 5-5 after their 28-21 road defeat at Toledo. Cardinals posted a season low 281 yards with 187 rushing on 39 carries. Defensively, they allowed about 3.5 yards per rush to the Rockets with 301 passing yards on 38 attempts. John Paddock season lows here, 37% completion rate, 2.7 yards per attempt. He threw for 94 yards and an interception. This year, Paddock a 59% completion rate with 5.8 yards per attempt. Bobcats carry a 5-game win streak. They've covered 6 straight against the MAC. Past 3 MAC games, the Bobcats holding teams at 316 yards a game. The player will be Ohio at -4. Bowling Green versus Toledo College Football Pick. This one here is on Tuesday. Bowling Green fell to 5-5 with their 40-6 home defeat to Kent. Falcons put up 311 yards with 65 rushing on 38 carries. On defense, they allowed nearly 5 yards per rush with 214 passing on 30 attempts. Mac McDonald completed 77% of his passes with 6.2 yards per attempt. He threw for 246 yards with a touchdown and a pick. This season, McDonald has 62% completion rate with 6.5 yards per attempt. He's thrown for 17 touchdowns and 4 picks. Toledo improved to 7-3 after their 28-21 home win to Ball State. Rockets put up 440 yards with 139 rushing on 41 carries. Defensively, Toledo allowed 4.5 yards per rush to the Cardinals with 94 passing on 35 attempts. Daquan Finn completed 55% of his passes with 7.9 yards per attempt. He threw for 301 yards with 3 touchdowns and an interception. On the season, Finn a 59% completion rate with 7.6 yards per attempt. Rockets have clinched a spot in the MAC championship game. Falcons 1 win away from bowl eligibility. Rockets have failed to cover 3 straight, averaging 27 points a game. Play here will be Bowling Green plus 15.5. Louisiana versus Florida State College Football Pick Saturday. Louisiana is 5-5 with their 36-17 home win to Georgia Southern. Raging Cajuns gained 435 yards with 242 rushing on 39 carries. Defensively, they held the Eagles to 3 yards per rush with 358 passing on 53 attempts. Ben Wooldridge completed 55% of his passes for 6.2 yards per attempt. He threw for 193 yards with 3 touchdowns and 1 interception. On the air, Wooldridge a 56% completion rate with 6.8 yards per attempt. Florida State improved to 7-3 with their 38-3 road win at Syracuse. Seminoles posted 420 yards with 230 rushing on 40 carries. Defensively, they limited the Orange to 3 yards per rush with 65 passing yards on 22 attempts. Jordan Travis completed 91% in the victory, 6.7 yards per attempt. He threw for 155 yards and 3 touchdowns. Travis this season, a 65% completion rate, 20 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, 8.9 yards per attempt. Seminoles 3 straight wins, all by 25 or greater points. Past 3 games, Seminoles averaging 505 yards, allowing 2 or 4. Raging Cajuns in this period allowing 257 passing yards with 7.3 yards per attempt. The play here will be Florida State at minus the 23.5. UTSA versus Rice, college football pick for Saturday. UTSA improved to 8-2 with their 51-7 home win to Louisiana Tech. Roadrunners gained 484 yards with 258 rushing on 41 carries. Defensively, they held the Bulldogs to nearly 4 yards per rush with 147 passing on 31 attempts. Frank Harris completed 69% of the passes in the win, 8.3 yards per attempt. This season, Harris a 69% completion rate with 8.5 yards per attempt. Rice fell to 5-5 after their 45-10 road defeat at Western Kentucky. Owls gained 326 yards with 165 rushing on 40 attempts. On defense, Rice surrendered over 5 yards per rush with 377 passing yards on 33 attempts. TJ McMahon completed 73% of his passes for 5.9 yards per attempt, but threw 2 interceptions. This season, McMahon a 60% completion rate with 7.9 yards per attempt. Shaquille Itras relieved and completed 61% of his passes for 5.3 yards per attempt, but had 2 interceptions. Rice defense past 3 games, giving up 441 yards, 5.1 yards per rush, 10 yards per pass attempt. In this period, the Roadrunners averaging 5.2 yards per rush, 7.4 yards per pass attempt. The play here will be UTSA at minus the 12.5. Kansas State versus West Virginia, college football pick for Saturday. Kansas State improved to 7-3 with their 31-3 road win at Baylor. Wildcats posted 405 yards with 184 rushing on 44 carries. Defensively, they did allow 4 yards per carry to the Bears with 203 passing on 38 attempts. Will Howard completed 70% of his passes in the win with 7.3 yards per attempt. He threw for 196 yards and 3 touchdowns on the year. Howard, a 63% completion rate with 8.5 yards per attempt. West Virginia improved to 4-6 with their 23-20 home win to Oklahoma. Mountaineers posted 406 yards with 203 rushing on 53 carries. Defensively, the Mountaineers allowed nearly 6 yards per rush with 190 passing yards on 28 attempts. JT Daniels completed 58% of his passes, 5.4 yards per attempt, and an interception. Daniels was benched. Garrett Green relieved, completed 54% of his throws, 6.3 yards per attempt. He threw for 138 yards and a touchdown. Now, Mountaineers must win out to become bowl eligibility. At home, the Mountaineers are averaging 492 yards, 4.9 yards per rush, and 7.5 yards per pass attempt. Wildcats on the road allowing 252 passing yards with 7.2 yards per attempt. The play here will be West Virginia plus 7.5. Washington State versus Arizona, college football pick Saturday. Washington State improves to 6-4 with their 28-18 home win to Arizona State. Cougars produced 356 yards with 137 rushing on 35 carries. Defensively, they allowed 3.5 yards per rush to the Sun Devils with 212 passing yards on 33 carries. Cameron Ward completed 59% of his passes with 5.9 yards per attempt. This season, Ward a 64% completion rate with 6.8 yards per attempt. Arizona improved to 4-6 with their 34-28 road win at UCLA. Wildcats gained 436 yards with 124 rushing on 36 carries. Defensively, they allowed 5.5 yards per rush to the Bruins with 245 passing yards on 39 attempts. Jane DeLaura completed 78% of his passes with 11.3 yards per attempt. He threw for 315 yards and 2 touchdowns on the year. DeLaura, a 63% completion rate with 8.5 yards per attempt. The signal caller has thrown for 24 touchdowns with 8 interceptions. Bowl eligibility is in play for Arizona with the win here and the following week against a down Arizona State team. Past 3 games, Wildcats averaging 455 yards, 5.1 yards per rush, 9 yards per pass attempt. Washington State has a rivalry game the following week against Washington. The play here will be Arizona plus 4. Georgia State versus James Madison, college football pick. This one goes off here on Saturday. Georgia State moves to 4-6 with their 31-28 home defeat to UL Monroe. Panthers gained 535 yards with 186 rushing on 56 carries. Defensively, Georgia State allowed under 3 yards per carry with 225 passing yards on 29 attempts. Panthers surrendered a block punt interception return for a touchdown. Darren Granger completed 62% of his passes with 8.7 yards per attempt. He threw for 349 yards with a touchdown and interception. On the season, Granger a 57% completion rate with 7.7 yards per attempt. James Madison moves to 6-4 after their 37-3 road win at Old Dominion. Dukes gained 492 yards with 188 rushing on 51 carries. Defensively, they held the Monarchs to over 2 yards per rush with 149 passing yards on 26 attempts. Todd Centeio completed 85% of his passes, 14.5 yards per attempt. He threw for 304 yards and an interception. This season, Centeio a 63% completion rate, 9.5 yards per attempt. Centeio has 17 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. Panthers have covered 8 straight on the road against a team with a home winning record. On the road, the Panthers are averaging 278 rushing with 6 yards per attempt, and their defense allowed only 47% completion rate and 5 yards here per attempt. The player will be Georgia State at plus 9.5. Houston versus East Carolina, college football pick. This one here is on Saturday. Houston improved to 6-4 with their 43-36 home win to Temple. Cougars posted 485 yards with 196 rushing on 26 carries. Defensively, they held the Owls to under 2 yards a carry, but 486 passing on 59 attempts. Clayton Tune completed 72% of his passes with 7.2 yards per attempt. He's passed for 289 yards with 3 touchdowns and an interception. Season-wide, Tune a 68% completion rate with 8 yards per pass attempt. East Carolina 6-4 after their 27-25 road defeat at Cincinnati. Pirates put up 454 yards with 174 rushing on 33 carries. Defensively, ECU held the Bearcats to under 3 yards per carry with 244 passing yards on 31 attempts. Holt Ehlers completed 56% of his passes with 6.1 yards per attempt. He's passed for 280 yards and 2 touchdowns on the year. Ehlers' career highs here, 68% completions, 8 yards per attempt. He has 20 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. Past 3 games, Cougars averaging 562 yards while allowing 535 yards. And getting torched through the air in this period for passing-wise, averaging 8.8 yards per pass attempt against them. And the play here will be Houston, East Carolina over 67. Oregon State versus Arizona State. College football pick. This one here is on Saturday. Oregon State improves to 7-3 with their 38-10 home win to Cal. Beavers gained 362 yards with 166 rushing on 45 carries. Defensively, Oregon State held Cal to 9 yards rushing with 147 passing on 34 attempts. Ben Gulbranson completed 65% of his passes with 6 yards per attempt. He passed for 137 yards and 2 touchdowns. This season, Gulbranson a 62% completion rate with 7.54 yards per attempt. Arizona State fell to 3-7 with their 28-18 road defeat at Washington State. Sun Devils gained 333 yards with 121 rushing on 34 carries. Defensively, they allowed 4 yards per rush to the Cougars with 219 passing on 37 attempts. ASU has shown improvement offensively since the coaching change. The improvement has shown more so on their home games. Beavers on the road giving up 402 yards with 281 passing for 7.2 yards per pass attempt. The play here will be Arizona State at plus 8. Old Dominion versus Appalachian State. College football pick. This one here is on Saturday. Old Dominion fell to 3-7 with their 37-3 home defeat to James Madison. Monarchs offense produced 227 yards with 78 yards rushing on 29 carries. Defensively, ODU allowed 3.5 yards per rush to the Dukes with 304 passing yards on 22 attempts. Hayden Wolf completed 54% of his passes, 5.1 yards per attempt. He passed for 112 yards and 2 interceptions. This year, Wolf a 56% completion rate with 6.8 yards per attempt. Appalachian State fell to 5-5 with their 28-21 road defeat to Marshall. Mountaineers gained a season-low 293 yards with 116 rushing on 40 carries. Defensively, they held the Thundering Herd to just over 3 yards per rush with 220 passing on 29 attempts. Chase Bryce completed 44% of his passes, 5.2 yards per attempt. He passed for 177 yards with a touchdown and interception. On the year, Bryce, 63% completion rate, 7.9 yards per attempt. At home, the Mountaineers averaging 438 yards with 4.9 yards per rush and 7.9 yards per attempt. ODU on the road giving up 442 yards with 245 passing with 8 yards per attempt. A win, and the Mountaineers are bowl eligible before they hit the road next week at Georgia Southern. The play here will be Appalachian State here at minus 15.5. Boston College versus Notre Dame, college football pick Saturday. BC improved to 3-7 with their 21-20 road win at NC State. Eagles posted 329 yards in the win, just -1 rushing on 23 carries. On defense, the Eagles limited the Wolfpack passing game and surrendered 200 rushing yards on 44 carries. Emmett Moorhead completed 60% of his passes with 6.9 yards per attempt. He passed for 330 yards with 3 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. This year, Moorhead had a 58% completion rate with 6.7 yards per attempt. Notre Dame moves to 7-3 with their 35-32 road win at Navy. Fighting Irish gained 335 yards with 66 rushing on 34 attempts. Defensively, the Fighting Irish allowed over 5 yards per rush with 108 passing on 13 attempts. Drew Pine completed 81% of his passes with 12.8 yards per attempt. He threw for 269 yards, 4 touchdowns, and an interception. On the year, Pine a 63% completion rate with 7.6 yards per attempt. Eagles' offense has shown improvement the past 2 games with their young quarterback Moorhead. Notre Dame has struggled to cover against the losing teams on their schedule. The play here will be Boston College at plus the 21. All right, that was our college football pick show here for Tuesday. Make sure to like, subscribe, and set notifications. And for all of our live shows coming up, we'll have college basketball and NBA a little later today. And of course, our live shows are coming up here, started in about 10 minutes, about less than 10 minutes away with Ramon and Mitty. So check out the morning steam. I'm Tony T. Back later with more free picks.